live video. This will be the last one in this cycle of videos. The reason for this is that I'm going to Germany tomorrow, and I don't have, first of all, I won't have much time, and the second reason is I don't have much internet when I'm there. And until such time as I can find a decent internet provider in Germany that you can do pay as you go, which will allow me to upload. I unfortunately can't do things. I can, of course, still have a small, small 7 GB I have now on roaming, so I can actually do that. But I can roam as at home, but I can't. I can't really sort of upload things with 7 GB when sometimes that's the. I uploaded something recently which was 44 GB. Hello. And right, so we've got an easy one today. It's a very quick one indeed. Why weren't the death camps bombed? And this one comes up over and over again, and the answer is so simple that the video won't go very long. They weren't bombed because there wasn't the technology didn't exist to bomb them. And so the often it's said that the Western Allies didn't want to bomb the death camps, and for this purpose, a photograph showing bombs falling on Auschwitz in the summer of 1944 is used as say, look, it was possible, but they didn't want to do it. Yeah. Okay, so the summer of 1944, but let's say the Holocaust is largely 1942. So this were the times when the Jewish population of Poland was exterminated. It was and so the camps along the river Bug, plus Helmno, so you've got Belzec, Treblinka, Sobibor. This is largely 1942 when this was operating, and these camps themselves are pretty small. They're not very big at all. So the technology effectively didn't exist, and so what people often say is, well, why weren't the railway lines bombed? Well, the thing is, a railway line is not just about, can't quite do it. There you go. A railway line's about that wide, something like that. Yeah, about that wide. And at times, the RAF couldn't even find the Ruhr, which is approximately 150 by 90 kilometers wide, and it couldn't find it. So how is it going to find a railway line which is like that wide? And it's 5 times the distance. So it wasn't a realistic. It just wasn't a realistic proposition. So so when anybody says to me this question, say, okay, right, well, what technology you wanted to be bombed with? Tell me what bomber you're going to use to actually do it, and what equipment are you actually going to find the target with? Now, as far as the camps themselves were concerned, even if it were possible, they didn't make good targets for bombing. When things were bombed, area bombing largely required the sort of these old towns with lots of wood, things to catch fire, which in itself would then it would be incendiaries to make fires, which and then it would create a firestorm. So places like Lubeck, or Dresden or Magdeburg, that was easy. Berlin, when it was tried on Berlin, didn't work because Berlin was too new. It didn't work. But then camps, okay, I mean, I know the barracks are built of wood, but there's not much of it in comparison. And now I do, of course, appreciate the fact that people who were in the camps welcomed the bombing. And if you read, for example, Hope Dies Last, which I think is what it's translated to in English, and there's the description of a bombing raid that takes place over Auschwitz, but maybe it wasn't actually a bombing. Some bombs, for Soviet bombs, probably just dropped nearby, and so the prisoners were cheering and clapping. And you can also get this in other cases where they see bombers, and they're hoping that the bombing will come somewhere close to them. So yeah, whereas the people in RAF or USAF, they may have thought, well, we don't want to bomb people in prisoners. We don't want to kill the prisoners. They wouldn't appreciate that. Whereas we know from the prisoners' point of view afterwards that they would have appreciated the attempt, if it were at all possible. Now, the situation changed slightly as far as Auschwitz was concerned when the bases in southern Italy around Foggia became came online. So that was when it was the spring of 1944. So from then, the Auschwitz was in range as such. Now you've got the Hungarian deportations, which was this massive wave of killing, which took place from like the 25th of May 1944 and throughout June to the beginning of July. Huge numbers of people were coming into Auschwitz at this time, and that theoretically, had the Western Allies been aware, then yes, a larger effort could have been made. But now we come to the next problem, because the attitude was that the best way to save the Jews of Europe was to win the war quickly. And it wouldn't be winning the war quickly if the aircraft were lost. And there's a lot of sense in that. If, for example, they were sent on a mission the other side of Europe, which effectively, yeah, sure, they sent the entire fleet over, but if the entire fleet then got shot up, and it might take another 4 or 5 months to produce the aircraft again, which were lost. And in the meantime, what's happening? So from that point of view, also I can understand the logic. Now there are times when I think that more should have been done. Yes, I agree with that. I mean, I've actually published videos about when things were known for the first time. For example, I even published an account from a Tasmanian newspaper from 1942. I picked this one up especially because it was so far away, the other side of the world. And if it was there, people were reading about this in Tasmania, then and it was pretty accurate as well. But we know that now. I mean, you didn't necessarily know that then. It's a bit like what's going on in North Korea today. We don't really know. So what was happening in occupied Europe during the Second World War, which was largely based on couriers. That's number one. Number two is prisoners of war. Now, I did a video on what the generals actually knew, and what they knew was, in some cases, quite a lot. And but a problem then was, if they'd given away that intelligence, then that intelligence would quickly stop. And this was a problem. This, in fact, was classified information. Bletchley, I mean, in 1970 or something like that. I can't quite remember the date now, but it was classified for a very long time. So there you have it. That's the reason why. Now, there was somebody in Israel once said to me the following: so, look, we bombed, meaning Israel bombed, the reactor in Iraq in 1981. Yeah, but that was using a technology from 1981. That was the British and Americans didn't have that in 1942. So that is something which really has to be borne in mind. The aircraft, the bombers, were in fact very vulnerable to fighters anyway, until the fighters could carry these drop tanks, which to give them increased range, which didn't happen until the latter part of 1943 anyway. Good, so there's that one. Let's have a look at some of the questions. Now I've got the answer to that one. Lena says, because they used old skeleton from the past war, the others erst exported it US. Sorry, don't understand that one. Anyway, hello, hello, Mrs. Jacobson, and David, and Kim, and Colin, and Annie, and Portia. Okay, all right, there you go. Colin says it wasn't so much the aircraft as the loss of the trained crews that was the problem. Yeah, that also is a, because I said the aircraft, it takes 5 months to build them, and how long is it going to take the trained crews? Yeah, sure. And that was a major problem. I mean, to my way of thinking, that people who wind up in an aircraft, it must have taken a huge amount of courage in those days, and being the if an aircraft got hit, I mean, and you had to jump out the plane itself. Can you imagine doing that? Even if you've got the even with the parachute on, and then when you come down, then what do you do? And it's in the films it's all sort of easy, but I mean, somebody does that. They're in the middle of nowhere, haven't got a clue where they are. It's an enemy country. I mean, the most logical thing to do, I suppose, most people would have just gone to the police somewhere. At least that way, they'd have been taken into custody. But at least that way, they'd have got something to eat. But if they just landed, saying lots of people landed when they were injured and all sorts of things. So yeah, the crew is that's a major problem. Anyway, I'll say, and so thanks so much for presentation. This I completed a research paper on this back when I was at college. Interesting discussion. Thank you, thank you. Good. So anyway, there you go. There's that one. Now I'll tell you where I'm going now. I'm about to go to tomorrow. I'll be at a place called Stolpsee. Stolpsee is in Mecklenburg, and I've already written the video, the text for this before I even get there. And at Stolpsee, there is the I just want to, I'm going there to get the film for it, so I've got a film when I'm talking about it. But in Stolpsee, it was suggested that there's treasure in the lake, and the lake comes from, and it was from Hermann Goering's place at Carenhall, which I went to last month. And Herman, when he was clearing off, he dumped the stuff in Stolpsee, according to the legend. I mean, it's a load of nonsense, actually, but that's the way it goes. So it makes a good story. And then I'm going to go to Ravensbrück, and the idea was also I wanted to go to Sachsenhausen, but I'm not going to make it there now because I've got a lack of time. And right, Colin says that Steve Darlow has written some excellent books on bombers, bombing, and bombing crews. Have I read anything by him? No, I haven't even heard of him. So, but he hasn't heard of me either. So that's probably fair enough. No, I don't. I haven't read a great deal from people. I've got a couple of audio books on my telephone, even as we speak, about people doing bombing, but. To me, it's just like, it's like also being in a submarine. Mind you, I think being in a plane was a bit more exciting. I mean, being in a submarine, I just can't. I think I would go absolutely stir crazy in something like that. I mean, it must be fun for like the first 20 minutes, and then when you go under the sea, and then what? You can't see anything. You're stuck in a metal coffin, and I can't see the fun in that at all. But anyway, that's just me. Anyway, so there's that. There's another place I want to go to, which is near Hamlet, Buckerberg. Buckerberg, the Nazis had their harvest festivals, and this was held from 1933 to 1938, and it was a huge sort of gathering, a bit like Nuremberg, and in fact it happened just before Nuremberg. Sorry, just after Nuremberg, and I thought of going there because I know that it's still in pretty good condition. In Germany, things are actually really well protected like this, and so it's kept up as a warning for the future, which is really good. Okay, sorry, and point here, Alan, did the troops liberating the camps become more and more prepared as each camp was liberated in terms of food, medical care, psychological care? Yeah. That's a really good question, because they weren't prepared. And the thing is that one would have thought that Majdanek, which was liberated in July 1944, so and there is a chronicle of the liberation of Majdanek. The photographs were put out. There's a British journalist, Alexander Vert. At least I can't remember if he was British entirely, but he was writing for British newspapers. He visited the camp, and he made descriptions were made, but when Auschwitz was liberated in 27th of January 1945, then that was a shock. When Majdanek was, it happened all those months earlier. That should have been the shock. As far as the Western Allies are concerned, it was the camps. The biggest one, in fact, was Oldruf, and which I was going to go to in the summer, but I think I was getting a bit tired by it. Oh, because it's north of Seoul. I can't remember. There was a good reason why I didn't go there anyway, whatever. And that is the biggest Oldruf, which nobody's heard of these days, but that's good. Eisenhower even went there. By the time, also Belsen as well, which was liberated by the British. Oldruf was liberated by the Americans. But no, there was no preparation or anything of that nature as to what would happen. Now, as far as medical care was concerned, I mean, it was quite easily available. Not only that, you've got these the prisoners often discussed how they got fed, and this in itself we know led to deaths, because suddenly the British, Americans, French, Polish, whoever it was, they would give food. And that is not what you do to a starving person. You've got to give them a little bit. Whereas the Russians, or Soviets, I should say, sorry, the Soviets, who were pretty mean with giving people food anyway, so they people in Auschwitz had a relatively good survival rate after liberation, which was better than in the West, because they gave them next to nothing. And that is what they should have done, instead of giving them stacks of fat and above all fat, I think, is the problem, but also sweet things. There's a number of concentration camp prisoners who were liberated. Mel Mermelstein, his book By Bread Alone, for example, and he says about, there was two prisoners and they warned them not to eat the jam, but they ate it anyway and they died. And he said they died with a happy look on their faces, or words to that effect. So the prisoners themselves knew what could happen, or some of them did anyway. I mean, the thing is, unless you're in that situation, and you know, like normally when we're hungry, I fast, and then I see it when it come out the fast, and then I know I shouldn't eat the way I do, but it's normal, and so anyway. Good. So anyway, so check the book out. And Colm says Das Boot was it's quite a frightening film. Yeah, I think Das Boot is really, I think that's a brilliant film. It's such a corny ending, and that really gets me. I'm not going to say what the ending is, just in case anybody hasn't seen it. So, but it's corny, and lots of people put that as being better than Stalingrad, the film Stalingrad, sorry, 1992 film. I think Stalingrad's absolutely brilliant film, but although that does have this corny sort of love story sort of thing in it as well. And anyway, so Colin says the prisoners felt that they were already dead. Yeah, certainly. Kato's in Uganda. Hello. What's the truth about Hitler's death? Some say that he secretly fled to Argentina and allegedly said he died there. Did he commit suicide or did he die later? Right, Kato, there is absolutely no doubt, 100% certain that Hitler died in the bunker. Is this, what's it called, Grey Wolf or something? There's a film like that. I think I saw it advertised. But there's the evidence is utterly overwhelming. Now, the good question would be, is why did the Soviets pretend that he wasn't dead? They had the people, the stories all matched. There wasn't any differences between the stories of the people they took prisoner. They had the dental assistant who confirmed what the teeth looked like. They themselves all those years later, went to all the trouble to destroy what was left of the body and dump it off the bridge, Schweinebrücke, to the east of Magdeburg, which I went and filmed. And so they knew all this. They knew it, but they did it deliberately. It was part of the propaganda. It was part of them. This disinformation, which they continue to be pretty good at. So there is no doubt in my mind that Hitler didn't. So now there's some others like Müller. I mean, I'm pretty certain Müller died there as well. But you know, Martin Bormann. That was a better one. Pretend. I mean, he's dead. He's totally clear. I mean, it was even. I mean, as far as Bormann's death was concerned, he. I mean, that's clear as well. I mean, I think that was known at the time, maybe because people didn't believe Arthur Axmann. But as far as Hitler, he's 100%. Sorry, he died there. He didn't die in Argentina. I think how do people claim he got to Argentina? Was he picked up by a submarine or something? I don't know, or what? Or did he fly there? I don't know how. But anyway, I'm just asking these questions. In the Hitler Diaries story, there was one Gerd Heidemann. I mean, this is at the very end when he'd been found out, and he said he'll get Martin Bormann to vouch for the authenticity of the diaries, and he claimed he'd get Martin Bormann flew back from Brazil. And someone else said, you know, the plane of that nature, it only had half the range to get. It couldn't get across the. It couldn't even get across the Atlantic. But anyway, so his charred jawbone was found under a car park in East Germany. Yeah, Colin, I've got a film of this. I've got it coming up. The place, the location where it was. He was buried by the Soviets. No, he wasn't. He was dumped off the edge of a bridge. I'm 100% certain of that. I even saw the Russian the papers for it. I'm 100% convinced of that. So, well, having said that, I mean, let's face it. I mean, 100%, right? Can you ever be 100%? I'm as 100% as you can be. Put it that way. Thanks for the thoroughness of. Thank you. Hope you get to Majdanek. I would love to see it. Yeah, I've got films of Majdanek. I got locked in Majdanek one night, and there was 3 of us got locked in. The other 2 were a couple. So what happened was we had to climb over the barbed wire fence, and so he went over first. Then I helped her over the end, get her over that, and then I went over last. So that was I became the last person to escape from Majdanek. Hello, Paige. Bormann's remains were found under Friedrichstrasse relatively recently. Yes. His thing is though, I went actually when I was in Berlin, and I did this using the navigation, and I filmed it. I haven't put the film together yet, but I did it last month. I stood on the place where he because the stations have changed a bit, and because I got a bit confused because I remember what the stations were like before the wall came down, and it really did confuse me. And there was one place I thought, no, this is East Germany here. And then no, it can't be. It doesn't match. The crossing point was there. I can remember it. And anyway, so it's strange that the place where his body was found, because where his body, where Arthur Axmann saw his dead body, his dead bodies lying all over the place. So they got bulldozed or whatever thrown around. But it's very close to the station. Anyway, so sorry, was that not in 1971? Yes, the 1970 was April 1970. Hitler's body was dropped off the edge of the Schweinebrücke. It was really odd when I was there because it was I met the 2 people that were cycling, And I started talking, and I said, "Do you know anything about the history of this bridge?" Then I told them. I could tell they didn't believe me. Thought I was making it up. It was a lady, a girl there. I'm not student, 20 years old, something like that. And I thought about telling with a dog. I thought about telling her, and I thought, what? No point. She's not going to believe me anyway. So, some dodgy tourist coming up here, sort of making up stories about Hitler's body being dumped off this bridge. It doesn't really look the sort of place that Hitler's body might have been dumped off. Okay, thank you. Right, so very good. Thank you very much. So, this is the last live. I might do actually just before I cross the border. I'll make my mind up tomorrow. But I might just do another live. I know I'm supposedly doing one on Saturday as well, but I can't. I can't do it now. Tomorrow's video. I don't even know what is tomorrow's video because I've changed it a couple of times. Well, when I know I'm going to be there, see, I like to put a longer one on because there's more chat. When I know I'm not going to be there, I'll put a shorter video in. So I can't remember what tomorrow's video is anyway. So, but thanks very much. And anybody's in Germany can actually help with internet, please do let me know. So, okay. Colin, hi, bye. It's okay, thanks. Senor Space Gusto. Okay, thank you. All the best. Bye for now. Bye. All right. See you, David.